Have you ever reacted poorly to someone and damaged a relationship? Well, one time I was in a business meeting and I lost it. At least I got angry and I blew up. So I was in a meeting with a partner and we were talking about how to handle a joint customer. And in my opinion, the person I was meeting with wasn't very well prepared. And I asked him to do some follow-up tasks and he didn't want to do them. So to my perception, this was not the way the partnership should go. And I told him to leave and come back when he was better prepared. And I didn't tell him nicely. So after he left, my emotions were swirling inside of me and I knew I'd made a mistake and I reacted poorly. And it took some time, but I figured out that I felt taken advantage of. And he and I talked about it and he expressed some of his own frustrations with the partnership. So we were able to work it through. But I realized that if I could have understood my emotions at the time, the conversation would have gone much better and we would have dealt with the real issue. When we don't understand our own emotions, we end up being controlled by them and we get triggered by events and we emotionally lash out and we can cause destruction. So to build strong relationships, it helps to understand our own emotions. The problem is that many people can't recognize their emotions. So Talent Smart is an organization that focuses on teaching people emotional intelligence. And they've tested more than 500,000 people to explore how emotions play out in daily living. And they found that only 36% of people were able to accurately identify emotions as they happen. So how can we be more self-aware? Well, let me give you 6 ideas. 1, be aware of your physical reaction. When emotions become overwhelming, our body changes. Our heart rates go up, breathing changes, muscles tense up, you might start to sweat. And these are warning signs that we're becoming flooded by our emotions. And you start to be hijacked by the emotions. And at that point, rational thought is almost impossible. So we often hear from couples that they had a big fight. And when we ask them to explain it, it comes out that one or both of them became flooded by emotion. And so something triggered them, their emotions hijacked their body's reaction. And so people become more aware of their emotions if they start to notice their physical reactions. So 2, count to 10. This is more than just a wise saying. And when you get flooded by emotions, your brain goes into this automatic mode and you react with fight, flight, or freeze. So counting to 10 allows your rational brain to get involved and it can help you think through your reaction and hopefully choose a healthier behavior. So if you're really triggered, take a time out. And it takes at least 20 minutes for your body to calm down. Number 3, name your emotions. Emotions are telling us something that are important to us and they underscore that there's a thought or a belief that means something to us. And so when we're mentoring couples, we frequently will ask someone, when you argued with your partner, what were you feeling? And often people can't name an emotion. I used to be like this. And this is when we use a feeling sheet. And so we'll have a person look at the list of emotions, see if they can recognize one. Just naming the emotion helps you. So when someone can name their emotion, they can do a better job of managing it. 4, don't judge your emotions. I used to have just 2 ways to think of emotions. It was either good or bad. So emotions like happiness, excitement, joy, those are good. Emotions like anger, frustration, fear, sadness, those were bad. And I tried to ignore the bad emotions and then try to become more logical. The problem is that those emotions are real and sometimes they don't go away. And they just create resentment that later gets triggered and it comes out in a more forceful way. So I've become better at honestly admitting when I'm feeling fear or frustration or sadness. And it's helped to think through the thoughts or beliefs that are creating those emotions. 5, separate your emotions from your behavior. Emotions are going to happen. That's not the issue. It's how you react to your emotions and what behavior you engage in. So when I became upset with my business partner, that wasn't really the issue. The issue was I blew up and criticized him. My behavior wasn't appropriate. So the more aware you are that you're feeling an emotion, the more it allows your rational brain to think through what an appropriate response would be. So instead of reacting with fight, flight, or freeze, you can react with something that's better. 6, understand your impact on others. And this is something that we frequently ask couples about. We'll ask, when your spouse became angry, what were you feeling? In practically, we want the person to be aware of their own emotions. We also want their partner to understand the impact of their behaviors. So if your criticism is tearing down your relationship, it helps to think through other ways to manage your emotion that will result in better behavior. So let me give you some tips for the marriage mentors. 1, ask people to name their emotions. Being aware of an emotion is the first place to start. 2, ask couples how a particular behavior impacted them. When couples are in a non-flooded state, ask them how their partner's behavior impacted them. And it can help to identify the conflict patterns that the couple might be stuck in. And 3, suggest a timeout. When people recognize they're flooded with emotions, they're in danger of having their behavior hijacked. Suggest they take a timeout for at least 20 minutes. So those 3 tips again. 1, ask people to name their emotions. 2, ask couples how a particular behavior impacted them. And 3, suggest a timeout.